Fire, fury.
Welcome to Fuel Your Drive, guys. I am your host, Josh York, and we have another incredible episode today, guys. Today's guest, I'm telling you, he's a rock star. He's a one percenter. He's a national franchise broker, investor, author of an incredible book. I read it. I really like it. International speaker. He's ran a Inc. 500 franchise company. He's also a multi-brand franchisee himself. And he's just incredible on so many levels. And I'm very excited for you, my listeners, to learn from him. So make sure you listen. So guys, please welcome my friend, Jon Ostenson. Jon, welcome to the podcast. Very excited to have you here.
Josh, thank you for the kind words. Really appreciate it. And excited to be here with you.
Listen, man, let's get started. Let's get right into it. So, I want everyone to first understand. So obviously, I'm in franchising. Jon is also in franchising. And I've been like kind of like eyeing Jon for a long time. I know he's a top producer. He's meeting with a lot of people who are going into business, and he does a very good job at it. But before we kind of get into those details, Jon, maybe just give a brief overview of a little bit about your background, how you got into franchising, and what makes you so successful. Because I know, but I want everyone else to know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Like so many of your listeners, I spent many years in the corporate world, building someone else's empire, and really had a great run. Could have done that forever, and very grateful for the experiences we had. But I had that itch to do something a little more entrepreneurial. Didn't know what it looked like. Didn't have that great, strategic technology idea or what have you that somebody run off and chase, and really fell into franchising. So left a large public company, Inc., fast-growing company a while back in the public sphere, and stepped in as president of Shelf Genie franchise system, which was a fast-growing franchise system. Had the opportunity to come in and support our owners all across North America on a day-in, day-out basis, and lead the teams in doing that. And for me, that was the light bulb moment. That this franchise model, I just got to see firsthand how it works so well for so many people of diverse backgrounds. And so ended up partnering with the founder, and we spun off, and we've invested in franchises ourselves over time, and partnered with other guys and invested in franchises. So like you said, multi-brand franchising on that front. And I think those two lenses, a franchisor and franchisee, give me a lot of perspective that I'm able to bring to our clients today. And I love what I do. I get to help people step into business ownership, either for the first time, or maybe it's building into their existing portfolio. And I'll say this, Josh, and I think you would agree. Franchising is not right for everyone. Some people are too entrepreneurial and can't follow a system. But for so many, and I would argue the majority of people out there, it is a better path.
I agree. Let's talk about that, though, because it's so funny. That's literally what I was going to actually go into for the next question. So when I meet with candidates, because I do jump on a call to introduce myself at a point during the process, and when I do, I explain everything about franchising and what it takes to be successful, because a lot of people do think that you could just open up a franchise and you're just going to make money. Now, part of that can be true, but a lot of that is not true unless you are actually taking action and you are following the system. So let's talk about that, because I'm sure you heard the term of an entrepreneur, and you have an entrepreneur. Now, entrepreneur is very similar to an entrepreneur, and there's many entrepreneurs out there, and franchising is a great solution because you got lots of people making millions of dollars a year in franchising as a franchisee. So let's touch on that, because I think it's very important for people to understand.
Yeah, I think standing up a business, whether it be franchised or non-franchised, it takes work, and it takes good people. And so, with franchising, not all franchisors are created equal. I mean, I'd say you are a top tier franchisor in the way you support your franchisees. That's what I tell all of my clients. You want to plug in with a good system, but franchising, all of a sudden you have this built-in team, right? The franchisor is supporting you. You're in business for yourself and not by yourself, to be ultra cliche. But some of the benefits that I see franchising offering, first off, you have to stay within the lines. You can't go too crazy. That would be the downside. But the upside is you've got a playbook from day one that you're able to go execute against. You're not questioning product market fit, but you're able to step in and make it happen. You're able to derive best practices from other franchise owners. You're constantly sharing with them. They're living the same thing day in, day out. You've got that franchisor who's like a coach on the sidelines. The better you do, the better they do. So you have aligned interest. Sometimes you can get collective bargaining power over outside vendors or suppliers. And so, a lot of benefits. And one thing that's really interesting, Josh, is that there's been research done to show when you go to sell the business down the line, franchise businesses oftentimes trade at a higher multiple than non-franchised in the same industry. So you're just building this value. And I think it allows you also to build a portfolio of businesses over time. A lot of our clients will build out these portfolios that either serve to diversify or maybe even complement each other. So it could be a great building block.
That's great. So let's talk about fear, because I'm a big believer that fear is the greatest indicator to do it. Now, the majority of people are soft, weak, fold like cheap chairs. They don't take action. They don't want to go after it. And I know for a fact, without even asking you, we haven't even had this conversation. I know everyone is scared, and I'm sure you deal with that a lot. How do you handle that, and what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it comes up in all walks of life. I'm coaching a 6th grade basketball team later this afternoon. And, one thing I have to tell my son consistently is, hey, don't play scared, go out there, make it happen. And I tell him it's okay to feel fear. I used to feel fear when the pressure, when the pressure was on in an athletic situation, but it's not that, who was the JFK said, courage is not the absence of fear, but it's essentially embracing the fear and doing it anyway. So I totally agree with you. And there's rational fear and irrational fear, and obviously there's calculated risk and uncalculated. So, everyone's situation is different. Everyone's propensity to entrepreneurship and what they perceive as taking a risk is different. Everyone's got a different spouse or no spouse, that may be supportive on the back end. So, there's a lot of dynamics at play. But I'd say, I always tell clients, hey, this is a very normal feeling. If you weren't feeling this, I'd be concerned. But I think when you really step back and logically put it on paper, stepping into business ownership, that can be seen as taking a risk. Staying working for someone else could be seen as taking a risk too. You have a whole lot less control. I mean, they could fire you on a whim right tomorrow. So that's how I think about it. I think once we start playing out the logic with clients, then at least gives them different paradigms through which to view it.
That's great. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So, it's funny. So I talk to so many different potential new franchise owners, and I always hear a lot. People say, man, I never thought I'd be buying into a fitness franchise, because people are very used to hearing the typical food franchises, right? And, I have many successful 7-figure earners, many in my system, and we're creating more and more each and every day. And it's very exciting. So how do you know how to pair someone with the right franchise? Number one. Number two, how do you know, when you're with that candidate, because they might be saying, oh, Jon, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. And, you're like the doctor, right? So they're coming to you almost like they have a cold and they're looking for an answer to get better. How are you making them better and guiding them so they have a clearer picture? Because I hear it all the time. I was thinking about opening up, a Chick-fil-A. I was thinking about opening up McDonald's, because that's what they're familiar with. And I know your specialty is in this.
Yeah, no, I wrote a book called Non-Food Franchising, and got nothing against the food guys. We definitely need them and we support them on the consumer side. But when it comes to ownership, I think there are easier ways to make money. And I'm happy to go down that path and share why. But oftentimes when people say fast franchising, they think fast food. And yet there's this world of opportunities out there. Probably half of the 4,000 franchise brands in the US are in areas outside of food. And, we work with over 600 of what we would consider the best fast growing franchises out there. But at any given time, there's probably 50 or 60 that I feel are the best of the best, that have the leadership teams in place. That's going to be your business partner. They've got the financial models, the competitive advantages, the differentiators in their industry. So ones that we're proud to put in front of our clients. And I won't be so prescriptive to say, hey, here's the one you should go with. But what I would say is, hey, if you live in Chicago on the northwest suburbs, here are the 10 that if I'm in your shoes, I would want to be looking at, with some good diversification across industries. And to your point, very oftentimes people are getting involved in businesses they have zero experience in. Now, there are very transferable skill sets. When we talk about that, we talk about the characteristics of the business. But I've got an investment banker that's buying a dog training franchise in Salt Lake City right now. I've had doctors that have bought dumpster companies, and had a Wall Street attorney that recently bought a gutter business. I've had clients get into fitness. Everyone has a passion about health and wellness, but sometimes they don't know how to play that out. I love your model because it doesn't require that huge infrastructure investment. But no, it's the industries we focus on. It's things that people will spend on regardless of the economy. It's their kids, their pets, their aging parents, their homes, and their health, which I know is your specialty.
Yes, 100%, 100%. That's fantastic. So I know this is a very powerful topic in the industry when speaking about franchising, and it's crazy when you hear this, but 96% of people never hit $1 million in revenue. It's crazy. That's a real stat. And I hear a lot of people in franchising, especially when they come in, everyone's always like, how much money can I make? How much money can I make? And piggyback on what you just said, obviously with our model, because of the fact, there's no brick and mortar, like where do you kind of gear, like, gear when you gear up for pointing in the right direction, a brick and mortar versus like a service-based type of business? Like how do you kind of look at those? Because I always say we live in a world of convenience, right? I'm sure everyone listening to this call has ordered off Amazon a minute ago, an hour ago, a week ago. And, that's just the world we live in. And, you think about like everyone wants speed, right? Like Amazon's delivering packages now, like the same day. Sometimes I get it in like an hour. So how do you guide someone in that? And how do you stay within, obviously the world trends of what's happening? You hear people talking about artificial intelligence and all this stuff. Like, how do you position for that? Because, I think it's just nice to hear your insight on that.
Yeah, I think where are people coming from? So, coming out of COVID, I'd say a lot of people had time to question the path they're on. So you saw a lot of people exiting the corporate world, wanting to still work remotely, let's say, and they don't want to go back in the office. We've seen a lot of real estate investors coming over of late. Aren't too many good real estate deals to be had out there, to be candid right now. Yep. And so, I think some of that colors their perspective, but, I have some clients that are adamant about, being service-based and non-brick and mortar. I have others that like the brick and mortar side. So with a service-based business, I'd say in some respects, it's maybe more relationship oriented, a little more sales oriented. Yep. The brick and mortar is a little more transaction oriented. Maybe marketing drove someone in, and yep. There's not that much that sales component. So depending on the person's background, also depending on investment level, obviously brick and mortar tends, especially if it's customer facing retail, it's going to be a higher price point. Longer time, most likely to break even and kind of get up to speed. I'm personally invested in a brick and mortar franchise and in multiple non-brick and mortar franchises. So I'd say investment level plays a big piece there. The industry they're interested in. I mentioned property services. That's a huge one. Home services. Most of those are not retail based. They're more service oriented. Now, I think what I like about what you guys do is in your space, most everyone is, has a physical location, but you don't have to. So you're really standing out, differentiated in there. And we talk about what are the global trends. I think, obviously you have an aging population, obviously convenience, which you just hit on. We've been talking about a recession for 10 years. What if it does turn soft? What will people keep spending on? We talk about being AI resistant, Amazon resistant, pandemic resistant. So that's how we think about it.
All good stuff. So now I'm like trying to think from my listener's side here. Now someone's listening to you and be like, man, this guy Jon's really dropping a lot of bombs. I love what he's saying. Maybe I should. And again, listen, guys, I do this for you. I don't care. You don't have to buy a GYMGUYZ franchise. Make sure you guys understand this correctly. But you might want to reach out to Jon, and you might be on the fence right now. Remember, don't let that fear get into you. But like, what would you say to that person listening right now saying, you know what, you're right? Because I feel like people don't like, you and I have been doing this a long time and we're around this, so we understand a little bit more. But like, I think a big problem is people think they're so secure where they are. And like something might just not happen, or a company might not just run out of money, or artificial intelligence will wipe them out. And they live in this security blanket. And I always say suffering every day is the greatest thing to do, because you need to be uncomfortable, because that's how you're going to continue to grow. And when you live in discomfort and do challenging things, it makes those things much easier on a daily basis, especially operating a business. But that person who's sitting down right now saying, wow, maybe I should entertain this. What are you telling that person to get them over the finish line? They'll still be nervous, which is normal, which we talked about. I say the same thing, right? But give them a little bit more comfort to be like, you know what? Let me reach out to Jon. Jon can assist me and guide me here. And trust me when I tell you guys, I would not have Jon on my podcast if he's not a true professional. So what would you tell that person, Jon?
Yeah, I think the downside and the cost to entry of the exploration process is very low. It's entirely free for our clients. I'm a real estate broker representing, acting on your behalf. You'd never pay me a nickel. We get funded by the franchise brands. We get a referral fee on the back end if the placement happens. So there's no cost to you. But I do think, maybe take a first step. I would certainly encourage people to read our book, Non-Food Franchising. It's about 100 pages, very easy read, but we pack a lot of content in there. I think that could be a good primer to kind of get your mind and going and the juices flowing around the types of businesses. But, too many people create analysis, paralysis, sitting on the sidelines without ever even putting a toe in the water. And so I think let's get in the game. Let's look at real opportunities. And I've done enough of this. We do a lot of volume. We get to see firsthand what's resonating with different backgrounds and why. So I'm going to show you opportunities that are available in your area that I think could be a good fit for you based on what you share with me, based on what we see with others. And we just see those light bulb moments happen. It's the one that's number 3 in your mind going into the having conversations. that you end up going with more oftentimes than the one that was number one. So I think keeping an open mind, being ready for those light bulb moments, and get off the sidelines.
100%, 100%. I couldn't agree more. So now, what are some things you enjoy to do when you're not working? Like, tell us a little bit about Jon's life. I know you have a beautiful family. Like, let's touch on that.
Yeah, coaching basketball this afternoon. I love doing that. Love getting outside, swimming with the family. We travel a lot. We were at the beach last week for Thanksgiving. We went to Costa Rica as a family earlier this year. Took my wife to Ireland this year, so it's been a good travel year. But no, we stay active and pretty involved in some nonprofits that we believe in, and try to be good stewards of our resources and here in the community. So very active in the school based on our 3 young kids as well.
That's great. So let's talk a little bit about kids, because I'm very big on like leadership and leading by example. And I always say this all the time. Like my kids, like I don't tell them to do anything. They just follow what daddy does. So like, because these are important traits. Like not just if they want to go into business, but just to have a successful life and be a true leader, right? So like you said something really great earlier. You said, I tell my son, don't play scared. And that's so true. But like, what are some other things you do on a leadership side? Because, that's important and people need to know what it takes to be a good leader. Because I feel, look, the world needs a lot more, we need stronger leaders in our world. And I feel like there's not as much strong as there should be, and more polished, solid people. And how do you kind of, position that with your children?
Yeah, to kick it off, to be cliche, the days are long, the years are short. My oldest is 12, then we have a 7-year-old daughter and then a 5-year-old son. And, there are moments when I have that realization that, hey, life's going by fast. And, I think on the financial investment side, I'm very good from a compound mindset. Even on the business side, I'd say, sharing with a friend recently, I think on the family side, recognizing that time I put into my family is an investment and not spending time, but investing time. I think those small deposits every day, because oftentimes it's easy to go a day or two without XYZ. And so yeah, I totally agree with you, Josh, on the setting example. Things are caught, not taught.
Yes.
And so also as a father, my words carry a lot of weight. So I'm constantly trying to refresh my mind on how I need to interact and how I need to show up to support them, and recognizing that children are all wired differently and they're all in different seasons, and this season too will pass. And so we're trying to give grace to my 6th grade son right now. Middle school is an interesting time. First kid in the class with a girlfriend. Her father actually happens to be I won't say this publicly, one of the largest franchise food companies out there, CEO of the whole company. And so like, this is a very well-known entity. And so, there's just that unique dynamic plus school plus sports, and trying to keep his head straight. And 6th graders are weird to begin with. And but one realization I had recently, I like to fix things. I've been trying to fix him, some areas that I saw improvement for.
Yep.
And what I've told myself and realized is I've got to work on myself first, and that'll help fix him.
Bingo. Say that again. I want people to hear that, because that's so spot on and so powerful, man. That was like the biggest nugget of this episode. Say that one more time.
You can't fix others till you fix yourself. And for me, there's a faith-based component to that as well. That kind of plays along with that. But I think it's that realization that, hey, you can't take the speck out of someone else's eye until you take it out of your own.
That is so powerful, man. Listen, man, someone reached out to me not too long ago and said, listen, I really admire you, and, I watch a lot of your videos. I like your content. I'm trying to help my kids. They don't listen to me. And I asked him, I said, can I please answer you in like an honest answer without you getting upset? Because sometimes the truth hurts. He said, yes. I said, I looked through your page. I seen a lot of stuff. Would you listen to yourself? And you see the dots, like he's starting to type, and then you see it stopped. He answered about 6 hours later, and he said, no, I wouldn't.
Wow.
And he said, you're right. Thank you. He said, literally, thank you so much. I'm going to change myself. And I know for a fact, I haven't received it yet, but I know for a fact, I will get a message from this person at some point that he changed himself and turned his life around. And that in return will fall right down and lead right into his kids. And that is so powerful. So guys, listen to what Jon just said. It is the most powerful thing ever. You are an example in every single aspect of your life. And that's not just for your kids, that's for everyone. And especially if you want to go into business, good leaders always create other good leaders, and you got to be that leader, and you got to lead by example. And like I never expect anything. I don't expect people to buy me gifts. I don't expect people to say, "Oh, Josh, you take care of this." I'm the leader. I always expect to eat last. Always. I am always making sure I provide and I take care of my team first, because that's number one, the most important thing. Just like you take care of your family first, right? And man, that's powerful. That's powerful. But before we wrap up.
And Josh, let me add one thing to that. Coming off Thanksgiving last week, we had a full circle moment as a family. I'm the oldest of four. Everyone's done pretty well career-wise at this stage and has families of their own. But ready for my dad to retire. He's had to continue working, just has never quite gotten there financially. We're able to sit down with him at the beach last week and lay out a plan for him to be able to retire a year from now, where we're providing some significant financial support and other kind of support going forward. They received it well. It felt so good. And looking back, they never had the finances, but they raised us. They had integrity. They had, God, faith, family, things that mattered that embedded in us. And now we're able to return the favor to them. So I'd say no matter what situation you're in, look at what you can do with what you have.
That's incredible, man. That's incredible. Very well said. And Jon, last question before we wrap up. I always like to ask this question. If you were doing this interview, what question would you have asked? And then you can answer it. And that's a tough one. People always kind of stop and think about that, but I like it because it makes people think.
Yeah. I think, sometimes we talk about what's your favorite book or what have you been learning recently? One thing that I was asked recently is, if you had a piece of advice to give to anyone, just a generic piece of advice, it's kind of been true in your career, maybe one or two pieces, what would it be? And for me, I once had a mentor say, activity breeds activity. And so again, and to me, what that means is,
love that.
If I'm sitting on the couch looking at option A and option B, I can overthink it for a while. But what I found is if I start moving in either direction to option A or option B, oftentimes option C comes out of left field. And so I think an object in motion stays in motion. And so I think this is what you preach as well. Hey, get out there, take a step, get active, and good things happen.
100%. Couldn't said it better. Action takers are the money makers, and the whole analysis by paralysis thing is going to kill you. You just need to take action. And sometimes I tell people this all the time. Probably 90% of some of the biggest deals I've closed, Jon, to this day, I didn't know what I was doing. I always say yes and figure it out after. I've called people randomly and told them that I'm in their area next week. Can we hang out? Connect so you build good relationships. I wasn't even planning on going there, and I just booked the flight after. Like, that's how you got to do things. But that's what makes the magic happen. And relationship capital is everything. But Jon, please, first off, guys, please, before Jon lets you know where you could find him, you got to check out his book. His book is incredible. Non-food franchising. Make sure you pick it up. It's a quick read and it's a very valuable read. But Jon, where can people find you, learn more about you, and reach out to you if they're interested in learning more about a franchise opportunity?
Yeah, I put a lot of content out on LinkedIn. That's kind of been the preferred social platform. So connect with me out there. But, come out to our website, franbridgeconsulting.com, franbridgeconsulting.com. And, sign up for a free copy of our book. Just share your email address. We'll reach out with an audio version as well as a downloadable version. Certainly, if you'd prefer to buy the book online on Amazon, all the profits go to Hope International, a great nonprofit that we support, which I'd love to talk more about in some other episode. But, yeah, get a free copy of the book. And, if you're ready to take a next step and have a call, entirely no obligation, but just let my assistant know that when she reaches out, and we'll go from there.
Beautiful. Listen, before we jump, I actually am interested now. So guys, hold on one second. Let's talk about that organization, because that sounds pretty incredible.
Yeah, Hope International, a global organization, supports entrepreneurs throughout the world. And my son and I went on a mission trip last summer with them down to the Dominican. And oftentimes all these people need is a small micro loan, and so they're providing the funding. They create savings communities, allows people to buy inventory for their little store, or to buy cows from which they can produce milk for their community and create a business and sustenance, for their family as well going forward. So it's amazing what a little can do and how it really gets multiplied. And it's just very well vetted, great organization. It is a faith-based organization, but there's a hand up versus a handout mentality, if you will.
Oh, I love that. Well, guys, make sure you check that out too. That's incredible. And Jon, thank you so much for coming on this episode. I know we're going to get a lot of great information from it. We've got a lot of education for our listeners. But listen, guys, if you are seriously interested, remember, you're not paying Jon anything, okay? Jon is giving his time and trying to help you. So reach out to him if you are interested in learning more about a franchise opportunity. Not GYMGUYZ, any franchise. Jon represents hundreds and hundreds of them. And guys, remember, until next time, please remember to fuel your drive. See ya.
Legend. Do you know my name? My name is Legend.